Hi there, and welcome to this session here that is titled Believing in Yourself. As human beings, we know that we're supposed to believe in ourselves. We know that deep down inside we might actually do, but on the surface it can be really hard, especially in really tight situations. Sometimes we are well aware that we have skills, that we are good enough as we are, but when in certain moments we can be triggered and we can lose all faith and all belief in ourselves. So how can we maintain belief in ourselves over a longer period of time and build ourselves up instead of tearing ourselves down like we might sometimes experience? When I was younger, I was definitely not confident. I did not have any belief in myself in particular. Maybe you tried it yourself when you were growing up. You were supposed to play football or some other team sport, and two people are supposed to pick which players they want on their team. And then eventually people get picked except for you. And if you're that person, then I can definitely relate, because that was absolutely me. Every single time we played any kind of sport, I would be the last one to be picked. And in that moment, I always lost a lot of belief in myself. These small moments here, they build up over time. But one thing was these small moments here that led me to not believe in myself. Another thing was the self-talk that I began to pick up over time. See, in the beginning, I had great confidence. Yes, of course, I'm going to get picked for this team here. But eventually, I began losing more and more belief in myself. Eventually, I began expecting it. As I was standing there, I was really just expecting it to go really bad for me. I was expecting that I wasn't gonna get picked for any team. And this behavior here of expecting things, of having a programmed disbelief in myself, began to really affect my life. Every single time I would go into a new challenge, I would constantly be reminded of all the things I couldn't do, of everything that I wasn't good at, and I slowly began losing belief in myself. Eventually, after much time and after much work on myself, I began to realize how this behavior here had really shaped my life in general. And I began noticing how I had been talking to myself. And in this also lies the very answer for the technique, the tool we're going to talk about today. Because when it comes to believing in ourselves, it's really important that we begin to pay attention to our own self-talk. In other words, how do you talk to yourself? What dialogue is going on inside of you as you're engaging with challenges, as you're trying something new? What are you actually telling yourself? And the very first step here is to begin to noticing that every single time you do something wrong, every single time you're standing in front of a challenge, what are you telling yourself? How are you talking to yourself? The way you're talking to yourself has been programmed over a longer period of time. It's, in other words, a habit that you've picked up over time. And this also brings the key for how we can change our self-talk, how we can begin to actually believe in ourselves. See, the pattern of negative self-talk that you brought to yourself, the pattern of constantly disbelieving in yourself, is not necessarily set in stone. We're actually able to change this pattern here. And we're going to do it by consciously changing our self-talk. So the next time you're standing in front of a challenge and you find that your regular talking is coming up, you find that you are beginning to talk to yourself in a really negative way, or you're not going to be able to do it, you're probably going to fail, no one else believes in you, all these things here that might come up. Instead of just going with the flow, instead of just accepting this self-talk here, you're going to pick up another kind of talk. And I would like you to imagine that you are your own coach. I would like you to imagine that there's standing a really great coach right next to you and trying to inspire you, trying to bring greatness to you, trying to really develop on you. And I would like you to imagine this coach here, and then imagine what he or she would say to you. What would they say to you in this moment here? What would you could say, in other words, the inspired the personal development side of yourself say to you in this moment here. And what you're going to find is most likely very, very different. But keep imagining that you have a coach next to you, in other words, that you're being your own coach, and try to help yourself change your self-talk. I know it's not going to be easy. In the moment, you're going to feel like, what is this? What is going on? But over time, the more you practice, the more you rehearse this, the more you're actually going to be able to think and talk to yourself like this subconsciously. Reprogramming of your mind, but you're actually able to do it. And the more you practice this inspired self-talk, the better it's going to become, and the stronger this way of thinking is also going to be. So be very, very curious. Notice how you talk to yourself in these moments here. Change your self-talk. Imagine that you are standing right next to a coach here that's going to help you, and thereby slowly changing this way of thinking here. The truth is that this coach here that you're imagining is truly a part of you. It's an essential part of your mind, but it's not been practiced as much. The more you begin to rehearse this, the more you begin to practice this way of thinking, the more you'll begin to turn it into a habit that's really going to benefit you over time. Now, I know that changing our self-talk, creating greater belief in ourselves is a really, really big challenge for a lot of us. And therefore, I'm going to offer 10 free consultations for people who would like to dig deeper into this self-talk here, truly create change for themselves, and change their self-talk to a truly empowering tool. If you would like such a free consultation here, feel free to reach out to me either by email or direct message. And I'm truly looking forward for the two of us to sit down in a free consultation and talk about your situation and your life. Beside that, be very, very curious. Be very, very observant of the self-talk that you're telling yourself. Change it so it becomes a servant to your life. And beside that, may you have a really, really great day and take so great care of yourself. Bye.